Hey, how are you today? It's Trisha from Seasonal Yard Art. Jumping back on so we can go ahead and finish up this cute little bear with this honey pot. So I just wanted to come on and go through all of these steps to kind of bring him to life. First part of the video, we went ahead and we base coated everything. Now we're going to do the detail work to really bring him to life. Okay, so we started off with our reindeer brown. In all of our colors, you can get our color chart and be able to paint along with us with the exact same colors that we use. So we'll put the link for that on the website. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to do the details with our shading brush to kind of come in and give everything that two-dimensional pop of color. So I'm going to come on with our shading brown and I go ahead and get our paint cup here, and we're just going to go ahead and get just the tip of our paintbrush with the shading brown, and then we're just going to come in and follow along these CNC lines. And bring this cutie to life. I'm going to switch to the overhead camera so you can see everything. There we go. That's a better view for you guys. So I'm just going to come around. Just wanted to get that part done just a little bit so that when I come back in, I'm not dragging my hand all around. So I'm going to come in and do the outside of the whole design. And we'll do two different color browns. So I'm going to be generous with the first coat. And that way when we come in with the second coat of paint, you can still see the first layer. And like I said, this is just a very small little shading brush. And we'll come in with the script liner and we'll do more detail work. But I just want to be able to come in, give this guy a quick, thick outlining with the shading brown, and then we'll come in and, like I said, do some of the inner detail work. This is going to be a different color. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch back here. Oops. It's kind of a big piece. I'm a little pushed back here. So we'll go ahead and come back on and come around. And if you look, I'm just hitting this with the angle, the tip and the angle of my brush. I'm not laying it flat, just getting that very tip down. Excuse me. And you can see that just by starting to add the second layer of paint, we are already bringing him to life. Some of these lines, they're a little bit thin, so we'll come back in here with our script liner and we'll do some more detail work. So it's always good to have a brush that hasn't been used too many times where it's spread out. Once it starts to spread, the kind of detail that you're going to get with it changes. So in order to get these crisp lines that are pretty straight, you just need to make sure that when you wash your brushes out, after you're done painting, you don't let them sit in the water too long, because that'll make your brushes expand as well. And then you're not getting the exact same detail you were getting before. The brush strokes just get fatter and they look a little out of they look a little spread, so you're not getting that exact same detail. Okay, let me go ahead and get this second layer over here. Just going to come back in both directions so that I'm getting nice lines. There we go. I come in here and I'm going to do around his eyes a little bit. I want these to just be a little bit more pronounced. So I'm not going to use the super fine script liner on here, but I will around his eyeballs. So now that this part is done, I'm going to go ahead and get my script liner and I'm going to do around his eyes. That gives it, even though it's black, it gives it that depth around his eyes to make it look more natural. And then we'll come in with the white. But just adding this little bit of brown really will help the eyes pop. Just come back in here and I want to get around his nose really well and also around his mouth. Because that's the way it would look naturally. You would get all of that natural shading. All right, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start accentuating the lines around his ear and to make him look scruffy. He is a typical boy who is out messing in the woods. He's getting in all kinds of mischief. He's getting dirty. He's playing. He's having a good time. And that's the look that we're going for with this one. He's just a mischievous little boy or girl. Could be either. I'll add just a few extras. And those were just little lines to help you give it that look. You can add as many on here or as little as you want. I'm going to go around his darker eyebrows. And that was just that darker brown color. We're going to come back in with that darker brown and do a little bit more detail work on him to help give him some extra shading. Now we're just going to pull in a couple extra little tufts of hair here. And we'll do the same thing over here. So he looks very fuzzy and very furry. Okay, he's super cute. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse out this brush. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This time we're going to use a little bit different color brown. It's a little bit different shading, so that way I can get that muted, more earthy tone. And if you were painting with us and following us along when we did all of the patriotic pieces, this was one of the colors that we used. Just going to go ahead and just squeeze this out and reshape that tip of that brush. And I'm going to go ahead and just get that tip in here and come around and add some shading around this one. Like I said, it's just a little bit darker than the color of the pot because I just want it to look very natural. I don't want it to look too contrasting, but just enough that it kind of makes it pop together with color. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get my script liner and come around just the edge of the pot where the paint should be in. It's kind of overflowing, but I'm going to come around here with some yellow too and just outline everywhere. And then we'll come back and we'll do the lettering with a different color. Okay, I'm going to come in with my shading yellow. I might do around his paws with that same color too. It looks like it could be a very good fit there. So I'm just going to come around on the inside here where our yellow is kind of running down the sides. where he's dripping. Where all the honey is coming down and dripping down. Just making that inside line just a little bit darker, and just going to add some little movement that the honey is dripping all over the place. And it even dripped down here on accident. That's okay, we'll go with it. Okay, so that's that for the honey. I'm going to use this color to go around his paws because I think that's going to look really, really good together. Not the color I had intended, but definitely think it is going to work. My brush is a little bit wet, so we'll just smooth this in. Sorry, you can hear my doggy. He likes to be the king of the neighborhood. Anybody's walking by on a nice day, and he's got to let them know that he's a big guy. Yep, I sure do like that. Now I'm going to come on with a darker color brown, just our deeper shading brown. Just add a little bit of water to this and make sure it's nice and loose. Sometimes the paints get a little dried out in the heat. Everything has been so hot lately. I'm just going to come in and don't have another cup, so I'm going to use the back of this paintbrush. Stick that in there. I'm going to come in with a different little brush, and I'm going to come on, and now that this is dried up a bit, just going to kind of come in and do the outlining with their darker brown. So now you will see both colors of brown on our bear, because he's just a much thinner, lighter shade around the edges. And then I'll come in with the script liner and get in there with some details as well. But this is a much thinner layer that comes on for the shading. And whenever you're painting, you just want to make sure that you're getting multiple different colors to kind of bring them to life. Shading and highlighting do amazing things for paintings and making them look more realistic. There we go. I'm just going to come in with my script liner, and I'm not going to cover up my lines, but I'm going to add to them. So I'm just going to kind of come in just a little bit and just add an extra layer to make it pop more. Like I said, they're not as thick, It's just a little bit thinner. And little accents in there. Just little scruffies around his hairline. And if you feel more comfortable, you can always go to a thinner script liner if that gives you a little bit better control. Sometimes you can do the thicker line with a 2 or a 3 and then come by and go with a 1 or a 2 for the extra detail work. And you don't want to cover up your existing lines that you've done. You just want to help accent and kind of add that extra little bit of dimension. So you kind of come next to him just to kind of bring things to life. Just giving it that extra layer of color. And here I'll come around. This is a little bit wet still, but come around and add just a little bit of the darker brown around to help that pop up a little bit more. All right, and come in and just do a little bit in here with the darker color. I don't want to make this one too dark. Like I said, I want this to look more natural. I come around the dripping pot a little bit just to make that pop up just a little bit more. There we go. Just a couple of little lines in here. But I don't want to overpower this with the darker brown. There we go. All right. Next, we're going with the white. So we're in the home stretch. We are almost done. Oops, missed a little bit right there in the ear. Let me bring that brush back out and just come in here with that little scruff. Oops, too wet. Just try that. There we go. just his little scruffs of hair kind of coming into his ear. The same thing over here. There we go. Almost missed that. Let me clean up this brush. Okay, I'm going to come in with a shorter liner brush and try and get my white jar open. There we go. All right, when I come in here with the shorter brush, I'm just able to get a little bit more control and get in these angles, because I don't want my highlights in my eyes to get too big. But I want very good coverage. Just make sure you hold on to your board if you have it on a spinner like I do, so it doesn't spin away from you. Your white, you might need a second coat just to make sure it's nice and bright. And if you do, once it dries, you can come back in and touch that up. Okay, now for doing circles, what I like to do is get a thick handled brush, get my white paint, make sure it is fresh paint. It's not paint that's been drying where it's thick and clumpy. And then I just like to come in and just kind of move the paint around to fill the circle. And this one's a smaller one. And it just does a great job. You get those perfect lines. The circles, you're able to kind of spread it in that circle shape without them getting out of shape. See how easy that is? Trying to do this with a little tip on the brush sometimes can allow the paint to get away from you. We'll just go ahead and dry off that, and I come in and kind of look at this from the side because I don't quite like the way that that one is, the shape of that one. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay. Now I'm going to come back in with my longer and I'm going to come in and we're going to just add some highlights around my bear to kind of bring him to life a bit. And the shading with the white, the highlights, it just helps bring him to life more. Doesn't have to be everywhere, but it adds that extra movement, which brings your eye to the attention of the highlights. I'm just going to add a little bit of white here as if it's the tips of his fingernails, ready to claw at this honey and get this jar open. Okay, going to add a little bit here to the honey. Just like I said, just kind of makes him just kind of come alive with the highlights. And let me add an extra little bit there to his chin. We just want to give it that scruffy feel. Just going to add just a little highlight underneath. And then come in and do around his ear a bit. And we'll come on and give some highlights to his arms. And these are nice little wisps to just kind of make the hair look like it's just kind of popping up everywhere. Add some highlights to his paws. Under his chin. And as the brown dries, if you need to add a little bit more, because it starts to dry a little bit lighter, you can do that. There we go. I really like how he's looking. Like I said, see how it starts to dry? It looks a little gray. So you might need to just come on and brighten him back up after he's done. And just going to add a few to the pot. All right, that looks great. He really looks adorable. Now I'm going to just come in and I'm going to do the lettering. So with our lettering, I'm going to bring back that short-tipped little liner brush. I'm going to use this one. It is just a number 2. And I'm going to come back in with black with this one, just to make it pop off the honey jar. If I can get my black to open. Here we go. My little twister. There we go. Just want to make sure. Oops, stuck my finger right in that. Clean off my fingers so I'm not getting it everywhere. Okay. When you're doing your lettering, you just want to make sure that you're following the lines without putting too much paint on your brush that it's going to spread out. And you can see that my board is moving and it's jiggling a lot because it's on a bad angle. So I'm going to move that. There we go. That way I can hold my design and get sharp, crisp lines. So the smaller tipped script liner allows me to get that coverage without it getting too out of control. And you also have to have enough water in your paint so that it moves nicely. I think the sprinkler guys keep turning the sprinklers on, so if you hear them, sorry. I don't know how much the camera microphone is picking up with that. And just come in and just make sure everything is smoothed out so you don't have any ridges. I like to touch the center of my letter so I can offload any paint, so that way I'm not pushing it over the edge. Excuse me, I need a drink. Excuse me. My apologies for coughing. We're almost done here with our design. Just kind of getting in those CNC lines so they're covered. I smooth out my paint so I don't have any real thick lines there. Okay. Like I said, you're not pushing down hard on your painting strokes when you're filling in the letters because you don't want your brush to get stretched out. It's just smooth little holes of the brush. And you want to be careful. You might want to let your painting dry before you come on here if you need to put your hand down to kind of brace. If you need more stability. All right, so our bear with the honey pot is done. Let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. Pull the paintbrushes that we didn't use, stick those back in. So I can lift him up, and I know you guys can see on the overhead, but just so you can see how he looks. He is all done. Bring him back into the camera shot. Isn't he cute? Let me bring him back over and switch up here. So here is our finished bear. Look how cute he is. Oop, let me just put him down here and move our spinner and take a cute picture with him. So thanks for joining me today to bring this bear with the honey pot to life. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.